June 3rd, 2021. From El Cajon, California, this is episode 234 of You Can Bet on That. Hi, everybody. Welcome to You Can Bet on That, a podcast for the recreational gambler. My name is Mark Duvall, and sitting across from me is Dr. Mike.
Hello.
Well, Mike, it sounds like things are getting back to normal at casinos across the country. In fact, we're going to hear some phone calls from listeners talking about various casinos. But certainly by us at Harrah's Southern California, they have lifted the mask mandate.
As long as you're vaccinated.
Right, which is, I think, pretty common. If you're if you've been double vaccinated, no mask, and they
of course, they don't
you.
check.
But I'll tell you, Mike,
anyone could not wear their mask.
Absolutely. But when you and I first went to the casino, after they lifted it, I was very pleasantly surprised at how many people were still wearing masks.
Just last night when I was there, Mark, I think me and another guy were the only ones I saw not wearing a mask.
Way more people are still wearing masks than not.
Way more people. Way more people, which, is probably smart. Either they're not vaccinated or they just don't want to take any chances.
Right. I certainly don't blame them. Go for it. Gosh, if you want to continue to wear it.
If it doesn't bug you, go ahead. Now, you and I, we were wearing our masks if we were walking around. But when we were at the table just sitting next to each other, we took it off.
Right.
But then we put it on when we went to the cashier and we walked around.
Yeah, so, why not? We've got it with us. I don't really think about it, when it's on anymore. But
no, and then its table was just for comfort. Just for our own comfort.
And the closest person to me is you, and vice versa, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah. And it seemed like most of the dealers are still wearing masks.
I agree. Mm-hmm.
There's only a few that weren't.
Mm-hmm. So, And again, we'll hear from some listeners here. It certainly sounds like in Las Vegas, masks have come off almost 100%.
Right.
Well, it's Vegas. People are going there to party, right? So,
You're up all night. You're drinking like crazy, and you're heading back to the room for the call girl. You're not worried about your mask.
Good point, Dr. Mike. Well, there was some big, exciting news here in California. It turns out that sports wagering is coming to the California ballot. We're going to be able to vote on whether or not California can have legalized sports betting. Made the news this week.
Yeah.
We won't be voting on it until November 2022.
One of the regulars last night at Harrah's Rincon asked me, Roger, do you think it'll pass?
Uh-huh.
Now, what would your answer be?
I think it's absolutely going to pass, and we'll talk about some reasons here.
Well, that's what I said. I looked at him and said, I don't see how it cannot pass.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it passes easily, right?
Yeah.
But, it is California.
Well, let's talk about what we're actually going to be voting for. If this proposition passes, it will be an amendment to the Constitution. Sports wagering will be allowed only in person at tribal casinos. Now, that's why some individuals are against it, mainly card rooms.
Yeah, right, because they're not getting their cut.
Right, so it's only going to be at tribal casinos.
Well, and in person, there's no online.
Yeah, that's the other thing, in person. So at least, when it passes, you won't be able to do it from your phone or your computer anyway. You'll actually have to go to the casino.
Well, that would defeat the tribe's reason to get you to the casino, right? The last thing they want you to do is sitting on your couch betting. They want you in the casino.
There you go, right? Another reason. Also, if this passes, you won't be able to make any wagers on California college games. And what I mean by that is any game featuring a California college, whether it's actually being played in California or someplace else.
Right. So you cannot bet on any team in the state, even if we live here in San Diego and, Sonoma State is playing. I cannot bet on them.
Right. Sonoma State, no matter where Sonoma State is playing, you cannot bet on them.
But
That's
I can
true.
bet on the Washington Huskies.
Correct.
Or the Oregon Ducks, even closer, right across the border.
Right.
That's okay.
That's okay.
But Sonoma State, no.
Now, these are two reasons why we think it's going to pass.
Right.
It's like maybe people who aren't into gambling are, they're taking some safety measures here, right?
Right.
So the students won't be, gambling and throwing games and things like that. Good for them.
Yeah.
So ignorance in some way is going to help this pass.
Right.
And also the same thing, it has to be in person. Good. Where you're, you're not going to have somebody using their credit card online. And so, I think that's
ignorance helps everything pass, Mark.
In life.
Yeah, it's just like when I overeat at Taco Bell on the way home at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
That kind of ignorance helps it pass.
You never learn, do you?
No, never learn.
You never learn. One good thing, though, is that included in this proposition is real craps and roulette at the tribal casinos.
I'm sure that's in very small print at the bottom.
So even if we don't have sports wagering the way we would prefer it, you and I, at least maybe 18 months from now, 2 years from now, we're going to have real craps, real roulette,
I'm
no more
playing
cards.
A lot more roulette.
Are you? Yeah.
Oh, I love
with
seeing
the ball.
that ball.
Yeah.
It's just not the same without the ball.
No, it's not. It's just clicking cards the way they have it right now.
I mean, I could put those on my daughter's bike and spin the wheel.
Listeners probably don't know what a big roulette fan you are. The only reason you don't play is because it's not completely legal here.
Right.
Yeah.
I prefer to sit out than play a bastardized game.
That's right.
Put it that way.
Craps you can get around, though, in your head somehow.
Yeah, that I can justify.
Yeah. So who knows? We might not talk about this for another 18 months or so.
I think it's enough of a non-controversial thing that it'll probably pass.
I think these days, especially when the rest of the country is embracing sports betting. And here's California, way behind and jumping on boards.
All they have to have is one commercial saying, you know how much revenue this is going to generate for the state?
Exactly. That's going to be their big. Yeah, they're not going to be saying you can only do it at tribal casinos.
No.
They're going to be saying, think about the revenue.
Think about the revenue.
Yeah. Well, this is kind of breaking news just today, in fact, right before we started recording, the second post-race drug test for Medina Spirit, the Kentucky Derby post-race test. They ran another test. And in fact, it did come back positive for more steroids in his system than is allowed.
Right.
So we are thinking that very soon, maybe even by the time this episode posts, that Medina Spirit is going to be disqualified as the winner of the Kentucky Derby, and the winner will actually be Mandaloun. Now, again, that won't affect any of the wagering. It'll affect the record books. It'll affect the purse. Right? I'm sure they'll redistribute that money.
Oh, sure. Well, they may not even have paid it out yet.
It's very possible, right? Waiting for these results to come back.
Right.
Yeah. And in addition, again, right before we went to record, it was announced that Bob Baffert has been barred from Churchill Downs for 2 years.
Right.
So
that's got to be a little dip in his pocketbook.
For sure.
Because not just for the fact that Kentucky Derby, but there's all the other race season at Churchill Downs that I'm sure he enters horses in.
Right. Based on that move, I think it's a pretty done deal that Medina Spirit will be disqualified.
Yeah,
so.
Well, they ban him and then don't disqualify the horse.
Right, yeah.
The horse, he probably asked for extra butt cream. It's partially his fault.
Sure. Oh, well, I have to agree with you there, Mike. But see, it's horses.
Lather me up, baby. Lather me up.
Horses don't have the mental capacity to know how much butt cream they should get.
Right.
So
they just assume more is better.
Right.
Most people in the world just assume more is better. It isn't always that way.
Yeah, a human needs to step in and say, hey, Medina Spirit, that's not butt cream, all right?
Right.
Hey, thanks to everyone who's been clicking through our Amazon link. Remember, whenever you're going to buy something through Amazon, please go to our page first. You can betonThat.com and click through our Amazon link towards the top of the page. All right, on to these voicemails. First up is our friend Melanie.
Well, hello, Mark. Hello, Dr. Mike. This is Melanie from Colorado, calling in with a little Vegas trip report. I went to Vegas for a couple of nights, May 6th, 7th, and had a wonderful time. Hit Royal Flush number 7 at the El Cortez. The El Cortez still has their single deck blackjack game. It's a $10 game and very fun. Most tables I saw down on Fremont Street were at least 15. Didn't play those games because 10 is kind of my limit, but had a wonderful time. Circa Overhang Bar did not disappoint, and the Mega Bar. There was a bartender named Terry who never let my glass get half full. Anyway, very friendly crew. I feel like they are starting to clean up the strip a little bit. There's still trash and kind of dirty at the moment, and I feel like that's getting a little bit better. I was able to get out of work a little bit early, so I flew in on Frontier at 10:45 the night before my trip was actually supposed to start. And on the fly, got a $10 room at Flamingo and got upgraded to a strip view. It's beautiful. Really nice room, actually, for the old Dirty Bird. And then I stayed at El Cortez the next night, which I really like the El Cortez. If you stay in the vintage rooms, they're not much to look at, but they're clean and you literally walk up the stairs. You don't even have to deal with the elevator. Very exciting to hit the Royal Flush. When I did hit it at El Cortez, it just added a 4,000 credits to the quarter machine, not the usual lock it up and hand pay. So that was great. I really appreciated the El Cortez not calling attention to me winning that. I also wanted to mention I went to the brand new Pinball Hall of Fame. I did donate to their GoFundMe because I love that place. However, I don't know who it was, but an anonymous donor came through with $80,000 to make their goal of $200,000 to stay open. Whoever did that, if you're listening, thank you. The new space is amazing. It says pinball on it outside. It's probably 30-foot tall letters. You cannot miss it. And it's basically between like Mandalay Bay and the Las Vegas sign. Welcome to Las Vegas. Just a little bit north from the Harley Davidson store. Had a great time. And then just wanted to switch it up here in Colorado, May 19th. I was playing poker 1-3 at Golden Gates. And of course now we don't have a max bet limit. It's set by each casino. Not that that really matters to me, but I really am hoping we draw a bigger variety of players and some more action, some more fun. Do you guys think advantage players, especially for games like blackjack, are going to descend on Colorado now that we don't have a max bet or a statewide limit on max bet? And do you think the casinos here will be savvy? Do you think it will be like really an AP market for like 3 months before they really catch on? Do you think they'll start off really sharp on catching people? I'm just curious. I would love to have more AP players here, more AP stories here, because I think Colorado's kind of been on the back burner for most people since any EV kid would be limited by that $100 max bet. Anyway, I would say Vegas is super busy and kind of expensive right now. Colorado isn't, so come here. All right. Love the show. Can't wait to hear it. Take care, guys.
Yeah, we're not APs, and we don't have our fingers on the pulse of, AP culture. It's possible that advantage players were taking advantage of Colorado when it did have the $100 limit. Maybe card counters wouldn't be as obvious, right? Maybe spreading from $5 to $100, it's like, big deal, they're just betting the max.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe that's the case. Anytime there's a change in a casino or an area, APs certainly flock to try to find some advantages there that maybe the casino didn't think about or wasn't ready for.
Right.
So it's very possible that that's going on right now, or at least has been for, a month since this started on May 1st. I don't know. We just don't know. We're not APs again.
I'm sure there's some people who are checking it out very closely.
Oh, yeah.
Sure. And trying to find maybe some glitch in some casino system now that they have higher limits.
Right. Or taking advantage of, floor personnel who aren't used to these higher limits.
Right. But that'll change quickly.
I agree.
They'll get used to
Sure.
They'll adapt.
Yeah.
And then, they'll go to Colorado because it's beautiful. And they'll go to Colorado because they'll want to be, somewhere nice and do something else.
Yeah, I know. And I'll tell you, my wife heard about no smoking in Colorado, so she wants to go. There are a lot of reasons to go.
Right,
yeah.
Sure. And it's like Cherokee and Carolinas.
Yeah, right.
Right, it's a good place to vacation, and if you like to gamble too, then you got both right there, right?
Yeah. I was really glad to hear that Melanie did not receive a hand pay when she got a Royal Flush playing quarters at El Cortez of all places. That pays $1,000. And a lot of places will make that a hand pay, even though no tax forms have to be filled out. So really, what's the point of making that a hand pay? I mean, it's 4,000 credits on the machine. It's only $1,000. Why do they really need? I know they do hand pays at Harris Southern California. If it's you hit $1,000 on a quarter machine,
and they shouldn't.
Maybe they have hand pays so that the people delivering the hand pays are more likely to be tipped.
Yeah,
that doesn't actually. I don't know. Why would a casino do that though? That doesn't really make sense. But
a business taking care of their employees? Yeah, that doesn't make sense
You're right.
at all.
No,
Mark.
that's wrong.
That's ridiculous.
But anyway, I'm glad to hear, especially kind of a sawdust joint like El Cortez. I mean, it's not that bad, but.
Yeah, well, it's got something for somebody.
Yeah, right. Yeah, hey, it's got Royal Flushes for Melanie. And she said she likes staying there, so.
Yeah, we still have not got a Royal Flush. The other day, I didn't tell you this, I was dealt 4.
Yeah.
Just sitting there thinking, come on.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't even close.
Yeah. It wasn't even close.
No, it wasn't even close. It was still 4.
Like it would make a difference.
It came up blank.
It was
Mark.
pretty close.
I hit the button. It was just blank.
If the card came up, it's the instructions for poker that they put in decks, right?
Right.
That's the instruction card.
Yeah.
Oh, what bad luck. All right, next call.
Hey guys, this is Pete the Point from Indianapolis, calling in with a Vegas trip report from early May with my buddy Nick. Kind of took a different approach this time. We focused on places that we haven't been before. Had to go to Fremont Street and take a look at Circa for the first time. And for all the Instagram-worthy stadium swim and multi-level sports book, it's still on Fremont. I don't know if it's enough to pull me down there to stay there, but it's well done and it's head and shoulders above anything else on Fremont. Speaking on Fremont, we had a good time at the El Cortez. I had a slice of Evel Knievel pizza on the walk down there, but they had a great crew. It was a fun afternoon game. The next day, we went to Laughlin. It's an hour and a half south, and we get a lot of promos for flight and 4 nights for really next to nothing. But, Laughlin is kind of a city that time has forgotten in some ways. Went to the Harrah's. It's great for a local casino, but maybe struggles as a destination vacation. But the river area they have there was really nice. For Laughlin, Aquarius seems to be one of the nicer properties. Good dealers, pretty busy, really positive experience. Would I go back to Laughlin? Yeah, sure. It was a lot of fun to go down and take a day away from Vegas on the trip, but maybe every couple of trips. A couple off-site casino stops. Tried out the new Virgin and Mohegan Sun, and boy, was that a disappointment. No vibe. It was empty, kind of an odd layout. And it really looks like the focus there is on the food and restaurant scene more than gambling. Gambling, I thought, was a little bit of an afterthought. Went to the Orleans, really neat place. It defies kind of the de-theming trend of Vegas. They had alligator door handles and theme-appropriate restaurants. But the minimums were the same as the Strip. We didn't really spend a lot of time there. The star, really, of the off-strip casinos that we went to was Red Rock. Went our Friday afternoon, $10 minimum, great crew. Really liked the property, and the Summerlin area had a lot to offer. I would go back there in a second. But hit about 15 casinos on the Strip while we were there. Stopped at the Tropicana for the first time. They have one craps table. There's really no mojo and really left confused about what the long game is of that property. I will say our most positive surprise on the Strip was those shades attached to the link. Great crew. The craps table's right by the entrance, so you get good airflow. And the craps table's right by the bar, so they're really on top of drink service. But the highlight of the trip, I think, was within 4 days, we saw 4 small tall alls be rolled, so it was fun to be a part of that. Love the show, guys, and a shout-out to my buddy Nick, as I know he'll be listening. Take care.
All right. Thanks, Pete. A lot of good information there on Las Vegas casinos.
Yeah, have you been to Red Rock?
No.
Okay, I've been there.
You said you've been, yeah.
I've been there. I think I went with our friend Ron.
Yeah.
It's an excellent casino.
Yeah,
it's a ways out there.
That's the thing, right?
It's not really near the Strip.
Right.
I mean, it takes a little while to get there. But I loved that casino when we were there. It's been a while, so I don't remember it vividly. Mm-hmm. But I do remember there being a lot of light in the casinos, like more windows and stuff. Yeah. Kind of like Laughlin.
Really?
Where there's some windows versus, Tropicana. Tropicana is an excellent... He brought up Tropicana. Yeah. I always hated the layout of that casino.
Yeah.
I don't know. Tropicana was new. It was old.
Yeah. It's interesting you bring that up because you and I were talking about Tropicana recently and how we actually haven't been there in a very, very long time. But I do know what you mean. I don't know if it was claustrophobic, but it's
crammed in. Yeah. It doesn't flow nicely. You know how some casinos flow? Mm-hmm. Like for me, Bellagio flows really well.
Right.
It's kind of open and you don't feel cramped or anything, no matter where you are in that casino. Yeah. Tropicana always feels like, get off of me. Who's standing on top of my head? Yeah. I mean, it's like,
but again, we're remembering this from like 25 years ago. I was surprised to hear that there was only one craps table there. It seems to me Tropicana had at least 3. I seem to remember a fairly large craps pit. Maybe I'm misremembering, but only one table. Remember. Yeah, I'm trying to think, Mike, other than say, Casino Royale. Can you think of another casino on the Strip that has only one craps table?
No.
Yeah, I can't either. All right. Next trip, Tropicana.
Yeah,
must do.
We're gonna go to Tropicana, and you know what's gonna happen, right?
What's that?
We're gonna walk in and walk out, and we're gonna be mad that we got all the way over there to Tropicana. I mean,
it's gonna be one table.
It's
full.
not really near much.
We don't generally get down to the south side of the strip anyway.
Yeah. I mean, the reason to go to the Tropicana is you're on your way to the airport, and you've got a few minutes to return the rental car, so you stop at Tropicana and play a few hands of blackjack.
Yeah,
that's the only reason to really go there.
Yeah, you nailed it, Mike. All right, next up is Josh.
Hi, Mark and Dr. Mike. This is Josh from Seattle calling. I've called before, and I wanted to tell you a story that relates to a call about a couple months ago that I made. First thing, I wanted to tell you that I stayed at Wynn, and I happened to be there just 2 days after the mask mandate was lifted for vaccinated people. And so that was just really a great coincidence and good timing. It was nice to be able to play at the craps table with no plexiglass and without a mask because I've been vaccinated. And about half of the dealers still had masks, and half of the dealers at Wynn and Encore did not. So that was up to them, I guess, and whether or not they'd been vaccinated. But anyway, the story is I went over to Encore and was playing, and I have a tendency to tip by making place bets for dealers. And I had talked to you when I called before about the dealers never pressing their place bets higher than the person that placed the bet for them. So I'm doing that. We had a good roll going on at Encore, and the dealer was aggressively pressing his place bets. And next thing I know, they've got their bets above my place bet. So I had a $50 9, and their 9 was up to 75, for example. And I looked down and I said, wait, what happened? And they said, you're behind. And so I then would press my bet to keep up with theirs. And this roll was about a 50-minute roll, so it was a great roll. And I would keep asking them, what am I behind on now? Because they were just pressing everything they could on each roll. So we got their bet on the 10 up to 300, and I took mine up to 500. But they were going ahead of me as we went along, which, as I talked about last time I called, that I hadn't seen that before. Then the boxmen changed, and they stopped doing that. So it was a great table, great energy. I just wanted to kind of fill in my story from before that apparently once in a while, if you have a crew that feels comfortable with you, I guess, and a boxman that's okay with it, they will take their bets above the player that placed them. Interesting little follow-on to my last call a few months ago. Hope all is well, and it's great to be back in Vegas and having things somewhat normal. Take care. Bye-bye.
Yeah, it's funny that a boxman, hey, here comes Neil.
Yeah. Well, hey,
put a stop to it.
That happens at Harrah's Rincon a lot. I don't know if you've noticed, but certain people in the pit will let the dealers or they'll say, 500 cashing in, and they'll just from, across the pit wave, okay, fine. Mm-hmm. And then other guys are real strict about,
wait. Yeah.
They got to come over and check everything out, and they got to do it. So it's the personality of the pit person, right? That pit guy, he didn't care. It's like, make as much money as you can, right?
Well, I'm glad it was a hot roll.
Yeah,
because then you can kind of excuse it.
Right.
Sir, you're way behind. And we're up to $300. I've got 30 on it.
That's pretty amazing that they got
a little
their
ballsy,
10 up to 300. I mean, that hits, they get $600. That's a pretty nice tip.
Now,
Josh, I think you're overdoing the tipping a little.
I have been making tips for the dealer, the marching soldier bet. Right. So there are actually times when
you could get,
and when I have like nothing on the 6, right, and they've got $36 on it. So that has been happening sometimes to me. All right, next call.
Hey, Mark and Dr. Mike. This is Anthony from Missouri. Longtime listener, first time caller into you guys. Just had a report about going to the Isle of Capri in Boonville, Missouri. Kind of a little casino there, a lot of slot machines. They only have one craps table. It had been since February of 2020 that I had gone out there, and some of the limits were a little bit higher than usual. $15 for the craps table, which usually is a little bit too much for me, but I decided to go and play just the 6 and the 8 mainly until I was shooting, and did okay. Actually ended up $20 up throughout the night, which I'll take as a win any day. We were playing some blackjack a little bit later too, and $10 minimum table at least, but 6 to 5 blackjack, so not the best. The dealer did make a comment. I said, hey, there'll probably never be $5 tables again. She's like, yep, probably not. So kind of bummed to hear that, but overall it was fun. They did have some, not bubble grass machines, but they did have the machines that you could play on your own, kind of like at the D in Las Vegas. Didn't get to play those since I hopped on the actual table, so was fun, really busy. No masks are required for vaccinated people there as of right now. Things could always change, but overall it was fun. Glad to go home with some money, and it was good to get back to the casino. Thanks for all you guys do on the show, and we'll look forward to listening to more. Thanks.
Okay, so, there you go again. Another kind of smaller casino, no masks for vaccinated people.
Right. It's funny. I'll preface this by saying my mother was born in Missouri, a small little town just a few miles from Branson, Missouri.
Okay.
So I've been to Missouri all my life,
sure,
visiting my grandma and grandpa.
Yeah.
And I have never heard of this casino, Isle of Capri Casino. Sounds like it's in the French Riviera or something.
Yeah,
and then it's in Boonville, Missouri, right?
Well, it's exotic. You go there to get away, Dr. Mike.
I guess so. But shouldn't it be like Shepherd of the Hills Casino or something like that? I mean...
Yeah, that would draw them in.
Yeah. I mean, everything around where my relatives are from, it's, Shepherds of the Hills, Table Rock. It's very Missouri type names, right?
All right. Well, on our last episode, we had a caller tell of a situation where the dice were rolled. One of the dice hit the dealer's chips and kind of landed in such a way that it looked like the roll was a 6, which was the point. But the stack of chips kind of fell and made the die move onto what was ultimately a 7 out. And we talked about that, how, well, really, that is a 7 out, right? There was no, nobody did anything on purpose. Things happen on the table all the time. Chips get in the way, right?
Chips all the time, yeah.
Right? And nobody deliberately did anything. And we said, yeah, it really should have been called a 7 out. We went on to say that, well, maybe the pit could have shown some discretion and said no roll. But then, is that a free roll for the players, right? If it had, been a point, that kind of thing. And then what if from the casino point of view, they could get a free roll out of it too, depending on what comes up, right? What if it stayed, a 6 and they say, anyway, we got a phone call from Alex, AKA Bear Maulings, on Twitter. And of course, he is a floor for a huge, fabulous casino. So let's hear what he has to say about this situation.
Hey guys, it's Alex, also known as Bear Maulings on Twitter. It's your favorite Las Vegas dealer / pit. Listening to the most recent episode, hearing the story about the die that landed on 6 before the chips knocked it onto a 7 and what the call should have been. I just wanted to chime in and let you know that as a pit myself, I always want to call craps, especially straight down the middle. Even if there's no don't betters on the table, this is a game that can have action on either side, and I'm not going to let that change my decision. As long as the die hit the chips and the chips affected the die before it was settled in and called, I'm going to call it like it was. You're right that it is basically a free roll for me to call it a no roll, assuming it had turned to a 7 and, give the players one. But just imagine it the other way around. If that die had landed on a 7 and the chips had knocked it and cocked the new die onto a 6 and I had called a no roll, there'd basically be a riot at that table. So if I'm not going to do it in one direction, I'm not going to do it in the other direction either. In games like Blackjack or Baccarat, other games like that, I'll kind of lean into the house advantage by giving the players one here or there. But in a game like Dice, where you're going to have action on either side, I just got to call it straight down the middle. Whatever should have happened is going to be what happens. And as long as no outside forces other than the table and the chips and the dealer itself, which are all fixtures of the table, influence that die, I'm going to call it exactly how it shows up. And in that case, it's unfortunate, but it sounds like as long as the die landed on 7 out, it sucks, but it's the game we play. Anyway, just wanted to chime in with that. Sitting in the parking garage, headed into work, so keep it up, guys. Appreciate it. Hope to hear from you soon. See you in Vegas sometime. Catch you later.
Yeah, hope to see you in Vegas eventually, Alex. He makes a good point, right?
Yeah.
If he does that, he's removing controversy from the game. Now, that almost sounds like a contradiction of what we were talking about. Was this a controversial roll?
Yeah, see, in my mind, it's not.
See, there you go, right? Okay, the chips fell on it.
Right.
Oh, hey, it shouldn't have been. But you're right. I mean, what he's saying is that it's part of the table.
Yeah.
Nobody did anything to change.
It's part of the game. It'd be just like saying, they hit the chips. We can't call that.
Yeah.
Well, they hit the chips all the time.
Right. There are certain rules. If it goes up into the bank, okay, they don't call that. If it goes up into the wood, they don't call that, right?
Right. And those are steadfast rules, and we just stick to them, right?
But if they hit chips, that's...
we've seen it go into the stack, on the top of the stack,
sure.
and it's the point.
Yeah, right.
And you're like, oh, gosh, Well, no, we don't call that. It just forget it even happened.
Yeah.
But now we have a good story.
Yeah, so let's talk about a situation that happened to us recently. So I was betting the don't. And I had a couple of don't numbers. I think it was a 5 and a 9.
Right.
And it was the come out roll. I had lost, my
Somebody
don't
had
pass,
made their
but,
point. Right.
But I still had 2 don't come bets up there. It was the come out roll. You always make a bunch of prop bets,
right. On the
when it's a come out roll, that kind of thing. So the dice were rolled, and one of the dice was leaning on a stack of chips in front of one of the dealers.
Right.
Okay. It was very clear that it was leaning in such a way that the roll would be a 2, ace.
Ace. Yeah.
Right? And in fact, if she had just moved the stack of chips, it would have fallen and it would have been ace.
Right. And for people who don't follow this as closely as we do, anytime a die is not landed perfectly flat, so it's against the chips or maybe against the wall, the back wall or even a side wall, and it's at an angle, you just have to remove the object holding it up.
Right.
And then when it would not fall naturally, that's the roll.
And if you look at a die that is kind of at an angle,
right.
generally it's going to be leaning one way more than the other. Sure, there are those times
there
where
was one time where it was undeterminable.
Yeah.
Because it was really at a 45 degree angle. And it was weird. And the pit made the call, no roll. They were just going to do it again because there was no way to determine it. That's the only time in all of our years we've ever seen that. Most of the time it's very obvious. This was very obviously a 2.
Yeah, it was very obviously a 2, ace. Well, for some reason, the dealer with her finger actually flipped the die so that a 4 was up.
Yeah.
So now the roll was a 5, 4-1.
right? You would have lost your don't come back.
Yeah, so I'm trying to figure out what's going on here because I just saw her do it. And it's like, wait, what? And then I'm thinking, well, do I make a fuss because, I'm a don't player and it's really I'm the only one who's being badly affected.
Well, the funny thing is that the dealer flipped it. The stick guy obviously didn't see her do that.
Yeah, right.
And then he looks and says 5.
Yeah, right.
And I have all these bets and I win $280 on a 2 coming up.
Right. So it hurts me a lot and it hurts you because you're not going to get your win, right?
I
lose
don't lose any money, but I don't win any money.
Right.
And so I'm immediately, no, that was a 2.
Yeah, you actually spoke up because I was kind of trying to assess the situation.
You were trying to figure
and plus, I'm a don't player. What am I supposed to say?
Right. You're trying to figure out. And I'm thinking there are other people on the pass line who don't have all the prop bets I do.
Right.
So they're going to lose their pass line bet. And I'm thinking, do I want them to lose their pass line bet? And I'm thinking, no, I want my 280.
Yeah, it was a 2. The roll was a 2. I mean, there's no. So they called the pit over, Kyle, a great pit out there at Harris, Southern California. He got all the information and he said, okay, the call is a 2, pay Mike off. The dealer had already taken down my don't come bet.
Yeah, so she had to put all
that back up. She put that back up. And then as a great gesture, he said, don't take any of the pass line bets.
Right. Anybody who had a pass line bet did not lose. Only winning bets were paid.
Yeah.
And everyone else. So I would have lost my pass line bet.
Yeah.
Which was fine because I would have won, on the prop bet. But I got to keep my pass line bet. Plus, I got my profit on the.
Right. So there's a situation where really Kyle could have very easily said, hey, the roll's a 2. Do everything you need to do based on the roll being a 2.
Right.
But because it was controversial, this was controversial because the dealer actually moved the dice with her finger.
And then she kind of admitted, I think I did that
I know.
wrong.
She kind of like, I flipped it onto a 5. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah. That's actually almost what she said. Yeah, I flipped it to 5. Well, yeah, you're not allowed to flip it. And then the funny thing is like a brain fart is what it was.
I think
she
so.
had,
Yeah.
just some kind of like, and she just flipped it over instead of like removing the chips or just leaving it still so we could all look at it. She just quickly flipped it to 5. Right. She must hate don't bettors. That's what I'm thinking.
She saw I was on the 5, and I'll take care of Mark. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if that was it.
We'll get rid of this don't guy quick.
So that's our story. Now, if listeners out there are thinking, well, wait a second, guys, don't you play with cards out there too? Yeah, we do. We adapted the story so that we didn't have to explain the whole card situation too. But that is essentially what happened.
Right.
All right. Next call.
Hey, Mark and Dr. Mike. This is Brent McLeod. Last time I talked to you guys, I was a student at Sacramento State. We talked about Thunder Valley craps. I'm glad to report since then I've got my degree, so that's exciting.
Oh, good. Congrats.
I just have a question for you guys about playing the don't. You guys have been talking a lot on your podcast about playing the don't. I just want to know maybe Mark's mentality behind playing the don't. Personally, when I play the don't, I try to play on a table that's empty just because I don't want to feel like I'm that guy. But the way I see it is I play the don't when I roll because I'm hoping for a 7 that would pay me. I feel like if I play the don't while someone else is shooting, that I'm rooting for them to lose. So I know you guys see it a different way, possibly. I kind of just wanted to get your opinion about that, and I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say. I'm looking forward to maybe coming down and seeing you guys at Paris, Southern California sometime. I live up in the high desert. And I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.
Oh, yeah. Come on down, Brent. We'd love to shoot some dice with you. So betting the don't. I could understand what he's saying is like, I only want to bet the don't when I'm rolling. But, keep in mind, the whole table is against you at that point, too, right?
Right.
And anytime you do bet the don't, it's not necessarily that you're betting against the shooter. You really are betting against the whole rest of the table. And I can understand not wanting to do that, and there are situations where people get really mad when you do it.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate because when I'm playing the don't, I'm not thinking I want these other players to lose.
Right.
It's just that it's a different way to play.
Well, you're thinking that the rolls have been really crappy lately, and I'm probably going to win this way. Where if I go the other way and I go up on 3 numbers and he 7s out, I lose a bunch of money.
Yeah, and we've talked about it. When I'm betting the don't too, it's not that I'm more likely to win when I'm on the don't,
right?
But I slow down way more when I'm on the don't. We've talked about this where
it controls your money better.
As soon as they repeat a number, I just pull back and stop.
You're right.
So in some way, it's kind of money management if you want to look at that. But
well, this last week you did your normal don't when the dice were on the other side. You ended up losing for the night. I won. Quite
you had
a
nice big. But playing the don't hurt me terribly this last week. I mean, there's no question about it.
Oh, if you had played just like me, you would have won. too.
Yeah.
So.
But what I do now is I only play the don't when people on the other side of the table are shooting. So I've kind of taken emotion out of it as far as that goes. It's not like I look at somebody and think, he looks like a bad shooter, I'm going to bet the don't. Right? Just, that's how I just kind of mix it up.
There was another guy playing the don't this last week, and you remember, and he had some fairly large bets, which I wasn't keeping a real accurate eye on. I was more worried about my own bets. And at one point, a 10 came up. It was our point.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yes.
Oh,
and
yeah.
And then I look up and he's got like a $500 no 10 or something, right?
Yeah.
And I felt kind of bad because I real loud, because I hit that point and I won 500 on the line.
Yeah,
and
well, he was one of those don't players too who almost risks his entire buy-in on one bet. He had so much money on that 10, and I don't think he had any chips in his rack, right?
No,
he was
he's just putting it all out
so
there.
So that's always a risk, when you put everything.
Well, I'm sure he didn't feel good when I yelled yes.
Well, I mean, that's going to happen when you're on the don't, right? When people on the pass line win, that's just part of the game.
Yeah, well, and everyone was happy. The 10 was made.
But there are times where you have to have kind of thick skin. Now, tell the story. There's a real high roller out there who talked to you about me. He didn't approach me directly, but he was basically complaining about me to you. What did he say?
Yeah, he said, I can't believe you come with that guy.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be your friend and he's betting the don't. And I was like, well, I don't care how he bets. He's betting to win and I'm betting to win. doesn't mean we're not going to be friends.
Right.
You know, and I said he only bets when the dice are on the other side. So usually we're sitting next to each other. So when I'm rolling, he's on the pass line.
Well, and that's kind of how I emotionally get through it too, is all right, if I only bet the don't when people on the other side of the table are rolling, maybe they won't notice.
Right.
Right. Whereas if it's the guy right next to me on my side, oh, well, then, I'm going to bet the pass line.
Yeah, he actually said to me, I can't believe you come with him. I would never gamble with a guy who's supposed to be my friend, and but I'm like, well, he's not betting against me.
Yeah,
we can both win.
And there have been many rolls where the timing was just perfect. The sevens were only coming up on the come out roll, right? And we both win on a roll. It doesn't always happen. Usually one wins and one loses, but it can happen.
And we talked about that one guy. I haven't seen him in a long time, but he would not bet the don't pass.
Right.
He would wait until a point was established and then bet the don't come.
Right. Only
and
don't
hope
come.
to go up to a couple of numbers or even just one number.
Yeah.
And then hope the point was made, everyone would be happy, and then there'd be a 7 on the come out, and he would win too.
Yeah.
And that's a very, that
helped him emotionally and other players at the table probably too.
Right. If you want to avoid emotional stress, that is perfect because then you can root for the point. You have no interest in that coming up or not. You just want a 7 to come up after the point's made, right?
There's a stigma with betting the don't. It shouldn't be there, but it is, and it will continue to be there. So anyway, betting the don't's not for everyone. How about that?
Yeah, well, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And, you could be on a table, too, where there were 4 don't players and 1 pass line player, and then you'd feel weird, like, you're rooting for that 6 to come up.
Every once in a while, you'll find, like, a locals place where, all the old men are betting the don't.
When we went to San Manuel Casino, remember they told us a lot of people here play the don't.
Right, because there was a slight advantage to playing the don't there, too, the way they did their cards.
The way they did their cards was not particularly perfect.
No, it wasn't accurate as far as a craps game goes. Yep.
Right. And there was a slight advantage to the don't. And, the first thing somebody told us was a lot of people here play the don't.
Yep.
And they probably should if they're going to go regularly, right? They have a little bit of a little less of a disadvantage.
There you go. A little less of a disadvantage, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Next up is Brandon.
Hey, Mark and Dr. Mike. This is Brandon from Northern California. I was just calling with a trip report that I had. We actually went to our local Indian casino out here, Thunder Valley, for my father-in-law's birthday. And next to Thunder Valley is the Hard Rock. So we decided to go over to the Hard Rock to use our free play. Didn't win anything, and we were just about ready to walk out the door. And they actually called my father-in-law's name over the intercom, and he had won $100 in free slot play, which that already busted a myth for us because we were certain to believe that we would never get called over the intercom for anything. So we got his free play, still didn't win anything, ended up leaving Hard Rock even, which was a plus for us. So we went back to Thunder Valley. We found a slot machine with an 88-cent bet penny slot, and we both put a $20 bill in and decided to use my free play. I had $20 of free play, and we spun and spun and spun, didn't win anything. And on the very last spin of my free play, we hit a bonus. On the bonus, we went through the game mode and we selected different things and kept upgrading the win. And lo and behold, we happened to pick the jackpot, $11,000 and some change.
Oh, nice.
I don't remember the exact amount, but we were jumping and screaming and hollering, and we were just overall really happy. Being good son-in-law, we split it down the middle. I went upstairs, showed my wife. She was happy. Probably shouldn't have done that because it ended up in her purse, but that probably saved her ass in the long run anyways. So they kind of busted a couple myths for us because I always thought that you couldn't win off a free play, at least not big. And, I always felt like we would never get called. I feel like they call people that are, really old or, people just seem really random. And, I couldn't believe that we had a jackpot off of free play. It was pretty amazing. But at the end of the night, I ended up playing some blackjack. I came with a bankroll of $1,000. And at the end of our trip, I walked away with our jackpot plus an extra $300 from blackjack. So anyways, that's my trip report. I really enjoyed the podcast. Keep it up to good work, and I'll talk to you guys next time.
All right. Thanks, Brandon. Well, I'm glad some myths were shattered for you because, jackpots are hard to hit,
right?
Period.
Exactly.
So when you don't hit a jackpot, you come up with reasons. Oh, I was playing free play. Oh, I had my player's card in the machine, right? All these sorts of reasons.
Right.
But they do, it can happen to you. Heck, Mike, the other night, Saturday night.
Not me, Mark.
No, not you.
Not
no,
me.
I should make it clear, not you.
Yeah, let's clarify that. It's not happening to me, ever.
But the other night, you were up at Harris for one of their drawings at 11 o'clock. And sure enough, one of our friends at the table, David, who's a regular there, plays with us all the time.
Right.
And really doesn't have a problem with me betting the don't. Because sometimes I bet the don't and he's rolling when he's on the other side.
Right. Yeah.
And he was laughing last time, kind of, it didn't work very well for you this time. I said, no, it didn't. But he won the $50,000.
He won the $50,000 cash giveaway.
Cash, yeah.
Now, the first name that was picked was another craps player who's there a lot.
A regular, yeah.
A regular. Very nice guy. He's a very aggressive craps player. I mean, he starts every roll with $50 each on all the hard ways.
Oh, wow.
And he presses them, and he bets a horn bet almost every roll.
Yikes.
$30, $35.
Yeah.
He'll bet 30 for him, 5 for the dealer's horn bet every roll.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a very aggressive player. Yeah. Well, he was there early in the day, because they have drawings starting at like noon.
Right.
And then at 11, they have the big drawing. The smaller stuff is during the day. And this is what I heard. He lost $8,000 real quick, which when you're playing like him can very easily happen.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
And he was kind of mad about that and went home.
Sure, yeah.
And then they call his name for the $50,000.
Yeah, and you have to be present for the $50,000.
You have to be present to win. You only have 5 minutes to collect it. And so he didn't get called. And then because of that, our friend David wins. I was happy for David. I was walking out and I went up to him and security's looking at me like, don't hassle this guy. He just won $50,000.
Okay,
yeah, they were surrounding him. Right?
Well, and good for them.
Yeah, as they should be. And I looked at the security guard and says, I'm his buddy, I'm his friend. And, I gave him a big pat on the back and said, David, I mean, if anyone deserves it, you do.
Super nice guy.
Yeah, super nice guy. And David's like, I got, this month what I lost back.
That's why he won, right?
That's why
he's earning a lot of points.
He's earning a lot of points, right? And I was happy that somebody I knew won.
Yeah.
Because, like Brandon said, it's usually some elderly person, and you're thinking, they're not even going to live another year. What do they need the $50,000 for?
Oh, Mike, you're terrible. I guess you're elderly, so you can say that.
Yeah,
so.
I can. I fall into that group, and when I finally someday do get a royal flush or win some jackpot or something, that's what everyone's going to be thinking. He's going to die any minute. Why did he win?
I'll stop. We'll stop doing the show.
Yeah. I think this show's going to go on forever because I'm never winning any of those drawings.
There you go. And it's your secret to long life.
Yeah, it's my secret to long life. It's so funny because the dealers, all of them, I mean, I have had at least 100 different dealers tell me, how come you never win?
Yeah.
Because everyone else we know has won.
Yeah, all the
and
other
you've got all
regulars.
these points. Why don't you ever win? I'm like, it's never happening to me. I could have a gazillion points and there would be one other person in the thing with one entry and they would win.
Right. Stop bothering me, dealers.
Yes. Let's just live with it, Mark.
All right. Well, let's hear another Las Vegas report. The sound drops out a few times in this call, but I think the gist of it is still there. So here's Michael.
Mark and Dr. Mike, what an honor. This is Michael from Maryland with a trip report. My wife and I just got back from an excellent 3-day jaunt to Vegas with a 1-day trip to Death Valley National Park. We stayed at the Aria in Vegas, and unless you're a foodie, the Aria is fine. It's definitely beautiful. It smells lovely, but the rooms are just not if they'd be at a separate price point next time around. We are low rollers, and we had about a $600 gambling budget for about 2 days of playing. On Sunday, we were looking for a little bit of craps game. We went down to try the Circa, which was amazing, but they had $15 tables, the D, $15 tables. We tried the Golden Gate, which had, we've had in the past $5 tables, but there was 15 as well. We heard about the Downtown Grand, which was perfect. It had $1 blackjack, $5 craps, been remodeled, highly recommended, and there's low limits even on a weekend. So we broke even there. On Monday, went to Death Valley, which was absolutely stunning, highly recommended. If you want to do a national park, it's just amazing. You got leave Vegas at the crack of dawn, and you can be back at the tables by mid-afternoon. On Monday afternoon, indeed, we're back at the tables. We went to Red Rock, and Red Rock was amazing. It's a beautiful, beautiful casino. Bought in for $200, left with just under $500. We hit 2 all-talls, hit a couple hards for the dealers, which they really appreciated. We also played at New York that night, and Park MGM, where there's $10 tables too. On Tuesday before we left, we went through the final craps crawl. We're looking again for low limits, and it was Tuesday a.m. Figured, all right, we can have some success on the strip. Not so much. The Aria had $15. That was downstairs. We ended up taking a tram to the Bellagio, thinking maybe, I know they have a $10 table. Nope, it was $25. We walked the strip. We went down to the Venetian. The Venetian still has all their dividers. They're very COVID safe there. But the Venetian was awesome. $10 table and super friendly dealers. Shout out to Elmer. And they also just brought back the Fire Bet, which I know was a subject you mentioned recently. Super positive session. We hit a couple hard eights for the dealers, and we were up on that session about $200. Right before the plane, we were like, hey, let's get more. We ended up going to Ellis Island. Not bad at all. Table was initially ice cold, and we blew through $200 very quickly. In about an hour, we were down to $9. Guy walks up, puts money down on the don't, and I announced to the dealers, hey, it's on now. This is exactly what we needed. We took that $9. We cashed at $180, not including tips. Great, just a ton of fun. Anyway, great trip, and hopefully one day we'll see you out west. Thanks.
Stupid don't player.
Hey, it was funny. He said Aria smelled good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what casino smells the worst in all your casino travelings? Anywhere in the world, what casino has smelled the worst?
It sounds like maybe you have an answer here, and I'm trying to think. I mean, the obvious I can come up with is Circus Circus. So what's your answer?
Well, okay, Circus is good. If you had said Fitzgerald's, I would probably maybe
Fitzgerald's. That's what the D is now, but Fitzgerald's in the old days.
In the old days.
All right.
How about the stinky bathrooms at Caesar's Palace?
Oh yeah,
that's
still
technically in the casino.
That's true. That is kind of stinky. It's right outside that Gordon Ramsay place, right? It's not like one of his fancy restaurants. It's kind of like a sports bar kind of place.
Right.
Yeah, the elevators that go down to the stinky bathrooms. As you're going down the elevator, it's getting stinkier and stinkier. Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably the stinkiest inside a casino.
Okay, I'll go along with that.
Best smelling one? I don't know. That's hard to say.
Yeah.
A Bellagio always smells good.
Yeah, I agree.
Because they have that flower thing too.
Yeah.
So you get near
it
smells good.
Yeah. So another good review for Red Rock we were talking about here too. And Downtown Grand usually has pretty low limits. And how many times have we been downtown and it's like, God, where should we play? It's like, Downtown Grand, let's go on over there.
You know what I like about Downtown Grand too? Besides the low limits?
Yeah.
Very open.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
it's very open.
The high ceilings.
The high ceilings. I never feel crowded in there.
Yeah.
Even the craps table, there's lots of room to walk around.
Yeah.
You're not jammed in somewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, as much as I like the D, it's very crowded.
Yeah, sure. Crowded and loud, sure.
Saturday night, it's very crowded. Yeah. You can go over to Downtown Grand, and there's a lot of room.
Yeah, it's funny because Downtown Grand is certainly not one of our favorite places.
No.
But we've stayed there. The room was, perfectly nice.
Yeah.
And, you go in there and it's
the dealers have always been good.
Every time
we've been there, we've had great dealers.
Often it's dead in there, so you can easily get a spot on the table. I do hate their cashier situation, though, at Downtown Grand.
Yeah, you've mentioned that before, that you don't like the cashier there.
No.
And I'm not a big fan of the cashier, but I just like the rest of the casino. It's nice.
Yeah.
And don't our friends David and Julie, didn't they have a gal who worked there who they really liked at the bar?
Maybe it was Taylor. Does that sound right,
maybe it was Taylor.
Yeah, Taylor from New Mexico.
Taylor from Mexico had a girl there that worked at the bar that he really liked.
Yeah.
And then David and Julie had one somewhere else that they always went to.
I can't think. Yeah, but you're right. I do remember that. I just
our favorites are at Harrah's Southern Cal.
Yeah, because we're there so often.
Most of the time,
But good. Thanks for the report, Michael. All right, next call.
Hey guys, this is Mike from West Central Indiana. I sent you guys a couple emails. First time calling in. Took my wife down to Cedar, Southern Indiana last weekend for her birthday. We had a good time. The host got us a nice upgraded suite and dinner at Jack Binion to celebrate her birthday and some room service and whatnot. So that was good. But crab tables didn't really treat me that great. Had a couple of just straight losing sessions. Never really did get up, but it was fun. They are lifting the mask policy. You don't have to wear one anymore. They've got signs up that say, if you're vaccinated, you don't have to. If you aren't vaccinated, they suggest you do, but they're not questioning, they're not checking. Finally allowing drinks back on the floor. That's nice. I didn't see any cocktail waitresses walking around, but the bars were all open back up, and you could go up, get a drink, and then take them to the table or your slot machine or whatever. Overall, it was a good weekend. Glad to see things are getting back to normal. Table minimums were still $15 during the day and $25 at night. hopefully those come back down here before too awful long. But like I said, overall, it was a good weekend, and things are starting to get back to normal. So love the show. Listen every week, or every other week, and appreciate it. Keep it up.
Okay, so
Thanks.
There you go. More updates across the country. Masks are coming off.
Yeah, I think things are going to be real normal fairly soon.
Yeah, it's getting
I'm
quick.
hoping. I'm hoping by the end of summer,
Yeah.
everywhere in the United States is just back to our normal.
Yeah, and
if
we end up going to Vegas in October, maybe it'll be like nothing ever happened. Right. So,
exactly. It very well could be.
Yeah.
It very well could be. Have you noticed there have been more Mikes calling today? No Davids?
yeah, I know. More Mikes than Michaels. Yeah.
Yeah, no Davids.
No.
What's wrong with you, Davids?
They'll come back strong next time.
I mean,
I'll bet.
it is the most common name in the world.
In the world. Yeah. All right. One last call, a final Vegas report.
Hey, gentlemen, Jason from Michigan. Just reporting back after a Vegas weekend here on the holiday Memorial weekend. And wow, Vegas is back, bigger, better than ever. We've been going out there for 20 plus years, and it's the busiest it's ever been in all of those years. As far as masks go, they had lifted all the restrictions, took down all the plexiglass. We were able to do whatever we wanted, go wherever we wanted without any restrictions. If you have any reservations about COVID, do not go to Vegas right now because there is nobody in a mask. Maybe saw one or two people here and there, but 99.9% of everybody were no mask coverings, and your personal space is no longer in Vegas right now. So if you're not comfortable with that, I recommend holding off till the Vegas surge kind of dies down a little bit. But we stayed downtown. We also went to the Strip. Everything looked beautiful. People were everywhere partying, having a great time. They were paying out jackpots everywhere we went, slots, card tables. You could just feel the atmosphere, the buzz. All the workers are excited that everybody's back. It looks like they're still short-staffed in some of the restaurants. Not all of those are open yet. I know they're looking to get those back open due to the capacity of people, but if they can't get employees, there's nothing they can do about that. Other than that, we had a great time. We look forward to going back next year, and I just encourage anybody that can get out there and support Vegas, the dealers, the Uber drivers, the restaurants. Let's get this thing back on track, and if you're a gambler, it definitely feels like old times. Thanks, guys. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you again.
All right. Well, there you go.
Thanks.
Boy, I mean, to hear Jason tell it, it sounds like they're already back, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm sure they are in
most
most places.
Yeah, yeah.
And Vegas is a more party atmosphere.
That's the big thing too, right? People are going there specifically to forget about
their
the
life,
last year and a half,
and everything.
Yep.
Yeah, you're going to a local casino like here in San Diego, or maybe even in Indiana, Southern Indiana, or something. Yeah. You probably live somewhere nearby, and it's not like a big getaway. You go to Vegas, most people are there getting away and looking to have a good time on the weekend. So the last thing they want is any inconvenience. Right.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. We want to thank some people for some recurring PayPal donations. Thank you to James and also to the Color Up Craps YouTube channel. Thank you very much for those recurring donations. We also got a donation from David. He says, just a little podcast tip for my upcoming trip. $1 for every month I've been away from Vegas. Can't wait to get back. David. Well, we won't say exactly how much he gave, but it was more than a year.
It was more than a year. Yeah.
And finally, from our buddy Ed O'Connor, Ed and friends recently had their hardway roll for all the leftover money from the 33 pool from last year, because of COVID, it was delayed.
Last year's football season.
Right, yeah. So they finally were able to have the hardways, and they actually hit a hard 10 while they were there.
Nice.
So we got some of our 33 pool money back. Yeah, that was great.
And we've never won that pool, mostly because I'm involved in it.
Right. And so, in fact, this is what Ed is saying. He gave us an additional karma donation. He said 10% of the hard 10 that we hit for future 33 pool karma.
Yeah.
Because even he feels bad that we've never won
never won.
People have won it multiple times.
Yeah, and you just take my name out of the thing,
Maybe I will.
you'd probably win it.
You know, it usually does say Mark Duvall and then in parentheses and Dr. Mike. I'll ask him to take the and off. Dr. Mike off this next season. Yeah,
you'll probably hit it twice.
Yeah, he'll be happy to do that, I'm sure. Hey, be sure to check out our TV listings showing all the gambling-related shows coming up within the next 2 weeks at youcanbetonThat.com/TV-listings and our list of gambling-related movies at youcanbetonThat.com/movies. We'd love to hear from you. Call our voicemail hotline at 951-292-4377. That's 9512-WAGERS.
9512-WAGERS.
Or you can email us at youcanbetonThat@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at youcanbetonThat and on Facebook at facebook.com/youcanbetonThat. Finally, please go to your favorite podcast app and write a review of the show. We love getting your feedback. I want to say something real quick here, Mike.
All right.
So, longtime listeners of the show may remember a couple of episodes where we interviewed my sister-in-law, Elle.
Yes.
She's a slot player and had some nice wins there. Well, I want to let everybody know that Elle, along with my two sisters, Sue and Dana, and Sue and Elle's niece, Nicolette, were contestants recently on the game show America Says on Game Show Network.
Right.
I actually tweeted out about it today. I couldn't tweet ahead of time because they couldn't tell us anything about the show. I wasn't even sure, if they'd be on or what the situation would be. So we actually saw the show today, and it was being rerun later tonight. So when you're hearing this, it's probably too late to at least catch the original rerun. But if you have a chance, check out Game Show Network. Again, the game show is called America Says. It's kind of like Family Feud in a way with some little twists into it there.
It's very similar to Family Feud.
And it's season 4, episode 3 that they're on. And if you do a search for it, their team name was PG-Devol, PEJI-DEVOL. So if you do a list through but I got a big kick out of seeing them on the show.
Yeah,
so if you get a chance. And you haven't seen it yet.
No, I'm going to go home and watch it.
Yeah.
We recorded it today.
Good.
And I'm sure my wife and daughters have already watched it.
Yeah.
I came here after work. So as soon as I get home, that's the first thing I'm going to do is watch that.
Okay. All right.
See how that turned out.
Very good. Well, anything else, Dr. Mike?
Well, I wanted to tell you last night, I just happened to go out to Harrah's Rincon to get my free play after work because I got done early enough that I thought, well, okay, I can get out there and still get home at a decent time.
Right.
And one of our listeners was there who lives in Phoenix, was on their way to Vegas and came there and actually told our friend Phil that we just stopped at Harrah's hoping that either Mark or Mike would come to get their free play and we could meet them.
So they were on their way to Las Vegas?
They're going to Las Vegas
but from
Phoenix.
They took a detour.
Yeah, and came for a night to Harrah's Rincon, hoping that one of us would go midweek to get our free play. And I just happened to do it. And I walk up the table and I'm, playing. Phil's on the other side and I'm here. And then he just walks, "Are you Dr. Mike?" Yeah, super nice guy.
Yeah.
And the reason I want to mention him is because, well, not only did he do really well, and he had to stop because they had dinner reservations at Fiore.
Well, it was him and his
fiance.
Oh, okay.
And he turned 500 into 1,200.
Oh, that's great.
In just a very short time because we had a couple of good rolls. Phil had a really excellent roll.
Yeah, good.
The interesting thing was he tipped $1 for the dealers on the pass line every time a point was established.
Oh, good.
With odds.
With like full odds, so 3, 4, 5. Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's a good way to tip.
And it was a great roll. They made a bunch of money.
Yeah.
And there was a lady on the other side of him, and she said, "What's that bet?" And he said, "Oh, that's for the dealers." And she said, "Well, that's awfully nice." And he said, "Yeah, it's bringing good karma." And it did. I mean, he over doubled his money. So there you go. There's a great guy, super nice, tipping the dealers every roll and, made a good money. I said, "Man, you can get 2 bottles of wine at dinner."
Yeah, right.
You're going to have a really nice dinner over there.
Yeah, well, good advice. All right. Thanks for listening.
Good night.
El Cajon? That's the Enos of San Diego.